They say the Bible is complete, perfect, immutable. But what if I told you that there is an ancient book, quoted by apostles, read by prophets, and feared by religious leaders, that was deliberately excluded from Scripture? A text so bold it describes in detail the rebellion of angels, the corruption of mankind, and a divine judgment that still echoes to this day. This is the Book of Enoch, the lost book that was missing from the Bible. But why was it banned? What does it reveal about the fallen angels? And why were its truths considered too dangerous for the public? Long before the birth of Jesus, the spiritual realm was already at war. According to the Book of Enoch, there was a time when the heavens opened, and the sons of God, powerful angels called Watchers, descended to earth. But they did not come on a holy mission. They came out of desire, and that desire corrupted them. These angels, led by one named Simyaza, broke divine order by engaging with human women. The result of this forbidden union was the Nephilim, giants, hybrids, monstrous beings who ravaged the earth with their strength and cruelty. They taught mankind things it wasn't ready to know. Sorcery, astrology. The wisdom of heaven was given to men with corrupted hearts, and the world was plunged into darkness. God saw and was grieved. But before the flood, before the judgment, Enoch was called, not to condemn, but to witness. According to the book that bears his name, Enoch was taken up to heaven and shown the throne of God. He became the messenger between the Watchers and the Most High. The fallen angels begged Enoch to intercede on their behalf, but God responded with silence and justice. The verdict was clear. They would be imprisoned until the day of judgment. Their children, the Nephilim, would be destroyed in the great flood. What makes this even more astonishing is that the Book of Enoch was known and respected for centuries. In the New Testament, the Apostle Jude quotes it directly. When warning about judgment against the ungodly, he says, "Behold, the Lord comes with thousands of his saints to execute judgment on all." That line is almost a direct copy of Enoch 109. This means the early Christians knew the book and considered it valid. So, the answer involves power, fear, and control. When Christianity began to institutionalize, councils were held, gatherings of religious leaders, to decide which books would be considered sacred. The biblical canon didn't fall from heaven complete. It was selected, and in that selection, the Book of Enoch was rejected, not because it was false, but because it was dangerous. Dangerous for several reasons. First, it revealed too much about the fallen angels, not just about Satan. It spoke of a multitude of rebellious spiritual beings, which could confuse or frighten the faithful. Second, it exposed heavenly secrets, names of archangels, structures of the heavens, cosmic cycles, and unfulfilled prophecies. Third, it challenged the exclusivity of Moses as the great revealer. Since Enoch, who lived before the flood, was portrayed as the closest human to God, there was also fear that the mystical content of the book would fuel heresies and sects. And in fact, many Gnostic and mystical groups used Enoch as the foundation of their teachings. The church, seeking unity and control, decided to silence the book. It was labeled apocryphal, that is, hidden, but it never truly disappeared. Copies survived among Ethiopian Christians, who never abandoned it. For centuries, it remained hidden in silence, until, in 1773, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce brought a copy of the Book of Enoch to the West, written in Ge'ez, the liturgical language of Ethiopia. The Christian world was shocked. A book quoted by apostles but absent from their Bibles resurfaced like an echo from the past. Since then, scholars and archaeologists have investigated it, and the surprise only grew when fragments of the Book of Enoch were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. This proved its antiquity and its importance among Jews before Christ. It was not a medieval invention. It was a living part of ancient Hebrew tradition. But there is something even more intriguing. In the Book of Enoch, the names of the archangels go beyond the familiar Michael and Gabriel. It mentions Uriel, Raguel, Ramiel, Sarael, figures who battle against the fallen Watchers and guard the secrets of the universe. It speaks of subterranean prisons, where the rebellious angels are chained. It speaks of fiery abysses, rivers of flame, fallen stars. It speaks of a Son of Man, glorious, eternal, seated beside God, long before Jesus was born. How could this author, who lived before Moses, describe so clearly the messianic figure? That's the question that still disturbs scholars today. For some, this is evidence that Enoch truly received a divine revelation. For others, It's an example of how prophecies were shaped over time to align with future beliefs. But there are still those who believe the Book of Enoch is a legitimate spiritual record, a fragment of a heavenly war that was hidden for centuries. And if that's true, what if the spiritual world is far more complex than we imagined? What if there are more books, more testimonies, more hidden truths that were erased from history? What if the rebellion of the fallen angels isn't over yet? Perhaps, by silencing Enoch, the world lost a key to understanding evil, judgment, and even the return of the Messiah. Today, the Book of Enoch is freely accessible, yet still rejected by traditional Bibles. Some read it as a curiosity, others as a warning. But one thing is certain, it continues to echo a calling. The calling of a man who walked with God, who was taken without tasting death, and who witnessed the deepest secrets of heaven and of hell.